The reality is the federal government has the full authority over interprovincial pipelines. So there's one man who stands in the way of this pipeline getting built. It's Mark Carney.
If Canada's going to make it, we need pipelines. It's as simple as that. Without, we are finished. Who's in the way right now? David Eby and Mark Carney. Will they buckle under pressure because the nation, including Liberal supporters, want pipelines? If Mark Carney does not deliver an announcement within a month, that's right, just 1 month, before he delivers his devastating budget on November 4th, the Liberal Party is over. It's finished. ENBRIDGE CEO just came out and stated that if we delivered our pipelines, it would boost our GDP by $1.2 trillion within 10 years. We would be rolling in cash, one of the fastest growing nations on planet Earth. All of our problems would disappear. The problem is all of these anti-energy bills that the Liberals have imposed on us over the last decade need to be removed. Are we gonna get there? Let's get into this report. Canadians want pipelines. In the yellow here, 75% on average, so 3 out of 4 say yes, we need a pipeline immediately. The lowest is Quebec, but that's still 60% everywhere else. Let's build, baby. Build, baby, build. Even wind turbines is under pipelines. We want pipelines over this wind. Who's in the way? This guy.
I'll say this for Premier Smith from Alberta. She's an incredible advocate because you would never guess that there is no private proponent, there is no money, there's no project, there's no support from First Nations along the coast. In fact, nobody's talked to them. And this project is non-existent except for in the political discourse. In British Columbia, we have tens of billions of dollars in projects with private proponents that are ready to go, that need a strong federal partner. And unfortunately, because of this continuing push for this pipeline that doesn't actually exist in any meaningful way, I'm concerned around projects that we actually have that are going ahead in our province.
So David Eby's describing a pipe dream, and he went even further with these comments.
And to put that tanker ban at threat, it's not just a threat to our pristine coast that so many British Columbians, including myself, value, but it is a direct economic threat to the kind of economy that we're trying to build in the country here. And so when I've said, let's cross that bridge when we come to it, we'll see what the Premier comes up with, I'm being polite. I am being polite. There is no project. There is no bridge to cross unless the Albertan government and the federal Canadian government are committing billions of taxpayer dollars to build this project. And if that is the plan, then they should be transparent about it. Don't mistake my politeness for weakness on protecting our economy and our coast. Now, I hope that clears things up, but let's cross that bridge once she's got a proponent and the money.
Who is paying him off? Who? Is it China? Who is paying him? He's not working for British Columbians. He's not working for Canadians. 75% of Canadians want a pipeline, and we don't want to wait for David Eby to say yes to it. And as this headline from the National Post released today states, David Eby, not a pipeline, is the true threat to Canadian economy. Yes, that is correct. Oh, and about that tanker ban, the most liberal person imaginable, Christy Clark, came out with a mic drop moment.
This federal tanker ban was a joke when they brought it in, and it's a joke now. And the reason it is because the Americans are shipping bitumen along the west coast of British Columbia from Alaska down past all the way down the coast. And they're doing it almost every day. The tanker ban doesn't affect them. And guess what? There haven't been any bitumen spills. So I think there's some myth busting that has to happen. There's a pathway to yes that has to be defined. And then there's the issue of the British Columbia government, the EB government, which is dead scared of any conversation about oil on the North Coast. I think British Columbians, if it went to a referendum, I think people would pass it. But the NDP base will not accept a David Eby government supporting this project.
Who's the NDP base? I really want to know who the NDP base is. Are they willing to see our country collapse, separate, finished? Because if we don't get this pipeline, it makes zero sense for us just to sit here and allow this to happen. We need the pipeline. And this was a mic drop moment. Wake up, Canada. David Eby is a critic of Danielle Smith saying, hey, you're going to put money towards a project that has no private investment? How could you do that? That is irresponsible. She said she's setting aside $14 million to get this pipeline moving, then has $3 billion set aside for a loan for Indigenous stake. Well, we just found out after David Eby went on this unhinged rant about not having private investment for the pipeline, so it does not exist. Check this out. David Eby just came out and the government of BC is going to be financing $3 billion backing of a North Coast transmission line. Unbelievable. And get this, there's zero private investment guarantee until after the thing is built. That means he's a huge hypocrite. And who's going to actually invest in power lines? That is the thing. He's putting our tax dollars at risk. This is the absolute best interview I've seen in 2025. It is a must watch from beginning to end. The CEO of ENBRIDGE won't build a pipeline to nowhere. Let's get into it.
I think if you look at the past, if you use the word ENBRIDGE, you're talking about someone that has already proposed this in the past. If you talk about TMX being involved, as we know, as painful as it was, that was built. And there are others that have built in that regard. And all of these customers have, with the right circumstances, supported pipelines. So I don't think you have to look too far to see concrete, real examples of ENBRIDGE and other pipelines being willing to be the proponent of a pipeline if the conditions are set. Capital will go to where the conditions are set. And today the conditions are not set for that pipeline to exist in Canada. It's existing in other parts of the world, and seems to me, and I think most Canadians, if you look at opinion polling, I think we're talking about 88% of people recognize and believe that the oil and gas industry is critical to Canada, and about 75% are supportive of building oil pipelines, and think we can do that at the same time as finding ways to do it less intensively from a carbon perspective. So not only are there possibilities to be proponents out there, importantly, Canadians are looking for the leadership to actually carry that out.
Some of the things that you're talking about and what you need removed, from your perspective, does it matter if it's a blanket removal of all of these regulations, i.e. the tanker ban, the emissions cap, and industrial carbon levy, versus a case-by-case exemption that are issued by the Major Projects Office? Do you have a preference one over the other, I guess is my question.
Well, here's what I would say to that, Mike. Look, I think that having bespoke regulation is not a great way to formulate capital and bring it together. So, look, that may work on occasion, and there may be a particular project one wants to pursue and the government may want to pursue. That's up to them. But I think what you would be better off doing is creating the conditions across the entire country that will allow capital to come and these projects to be pursued. The Public Policy Forum put out a report recently where there are some $600 billion of projects that are looking for an opportunity to be built, and that if those are built, they could add $1.1 trillion to Canada's GDP by 2035. So I don't think you just want to pick and choose. I think you want to put in place the conditions for private capital to form, for companies like ENBRIDGE and others and producers to actually produce, and the rest will look after itself, quite frankly. And I think you see that in a lot of other places. Remember, 10 years ago, there were no LNG projects on the West Coast, on the Gulf Coast of the United States. And in fact, you couldn't even export from the United States. Today, they have already built 10. There's another 8 being built and another 10 yet that have been approved. Meanwhile, we're just getting there now. So that was all about policy by successive governments, not picking individual projects, but actually creating the conditions for the capital to be formed, for the customers to support them, and companies like ourselves to be able to build those projects. There are plenty of examples of this working, and Canada is amongst the best to make it work.
But even if the industry does get what it wants here from the federal government on the regulatory and legislative front, there remains opposition amongst Indigenous communities. Now, the coastal First Nations, for example, states it explicitly. They do not support a pipeline and oil tanker project in their coastal waters. So how does industry address that opposition?
Look, I think one has to consult up front, and I think the Premier, I mean, you'd have to, you saw her conference yesterday, is trying to do that. Obviously, we're at the very early stages. I think we have to recognize as Canadians, not everybody is going to be 100% on side with all these projects, regardless of what project is. That's just not the way of any modern society. I mean, some people will like them, some people won't. And we see this with Indigenous participation, First Nations participation in our other projects. Sometimes we get nations that want to participate, sometimes we don't. Therein lies the essence of self-determination, I think. So, look, there's a long ways to go. We're probably getting ahead of ourselves until the condition precedents are put in place, the 5 that I mentioned today at the Empire Club, and that over 100 CEOs across the energy spectrum have put in a letter very clearly, as you point out, to the Prime Minister. So once those are met, and part of that is Indigenous equity participation and participation in those projects, then you've created the conditions for things to proceed. We're not there yet, let's be honest.
No, I take your point on that, but we are at this point today because the Prime Minister, Mark Carney, has promised to turn Canada into an energy superpower. From your vantage point, is that feasible? Can Canada truly be an energy superpower?
Absolutely. I mean, we have supplies of, you pick it from uranium to natural gas to oil to gold. I mean, we have everything set up. The only thing that's stopping us is ourselves. I mean, we have the need. There are 7 billion people on the planet that don't have the same access to energy that we do in North America. We have an obligation, a moral obligation, I think, to help them move to use the products that we have in this country. And let's not forget, we produce oil and gas, amongst other things, amongst the cleanest of any nations. So if we don't do it, the only people that are going to be able to do it will be the Russians and the Iranians and others that, frankly, I'm not sure Canadians would like to see those 7 billion people served by those players as opposed to ourselves. And even the United States as well, right? This is a competitive world. We have the products. We know the demand is there. We should take advantage of that and serve Canadians while also serving other parts of the world.
So do you think that Canada and the federal government's regulations that are in place are standing in the way of that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I don't think there's any doubt about it. I mean, one only has to, whether it's Europe, you see permitting reforms that are going on there. I think the Prime Minister recognizes that. You know, on election night, I believe he said, build, baby, build. I think those words matter. I love that enthusiasm from him. I think he recognizes we have been uncompetitive for the last 10 years, and he knows that changes have to be made. He wouldn't have created a major projects office if he thought things were going swimmingly in terms of building infrastructure. He knows things have to change, and I support him in that and look forward to those changes actually coming to fruition.
This was the most explosive interview I've heard in 2025. Every single thing that this CEO for ENBRIDGE said is bang on. The only way for Canada to prosper is for the Liberals to get out of the way, because there is $600 billion ready to go, resulting in $1.2 trillion worth of economic growth. We could be the richest country on planet Earth, and we would also be displacing dirty industries from dirty dictatorships and bring the paychecks to us. What is the problem? Oh, let's take a look. We even have CBC starting to come around to the idea. They're realizing the same thing as the rest of us. We better start building. And I'm going to let everybody know right now, if Mark Carney does not announce a pipeline in the projects of national interest by November 4th before their budget, their support will be tanking.
Of projects. And if they raise the industrial carbon price and bring in the methane regulations, it seems like they're kind of doing a nudge, nudge, wink, wink. So she's not wrong to kind of force him to stake out a position. I think there's a lot of Liberals who would want to know, actually, where Mark Carney stands. And I'm not sure that they can kick that can, maybe they can kick it down for a few more months, but that's about it.
Okay.
30 days. They need to announce something in 30 days. You watch. I'll be tracking the polls, and I guarantee you it's going down for the Liberals. Here's Danielle Smith yesterday.
I have to remember that we are the owner of the resource on behalf of the people of Alberta. About 85% of the resource is owned by our province, and we commission and work with private sector companies in order to develop it and get it to market. In talking with our private sector companies, they have said that they're not going to expand production unless there's a new pipeline, but they also can't pledge barrels onto a new pipeline as long as there's an emissions cap, as long as there is a tanker ban. And so we've got to do something to break the logjam. I've been talking with the Prime Minister about a grand bargain that includes the Pathways Project, the bitumen pipeline to the coast, as well as getting rid of the 9 bad laws. And that's what we're trying to do, is to punch through so that we can get some movement on all of those issues.
But here's where the problem lies, everybody.
Go in the pipe and C69 so that the pipe can get rapidly approved. Mark Carney really only has to do one thing. Get out of the way. Get out of the way. I will note there is some good news, followed by bad news. Canadian pipeline companies are building pipelines. That's the good news. Terrible news. They're building them in the United States of America without taxpayer support. ENBRIDGE is building 2 pipelines right now in the U.S. without taxpayer money. TransCanada Pipelines is building $8.5 billion of brand new projects in the United States without taxpayer money. But here in Canada, Mark Carney is in the way. So my message to Mark Carney, get out of the way so that Canadians can get building a pipeline. That's the way we send our resources to 2.5 billion Asian customers, so we're no longer reliant on the Americans for all of our exports.
It's that easy, Canada. All we need to do is for the Liberals to get out of the way so that we could become the most prosperous country on planet Earth. But we got a problem. We have Mr. Net Zero as our Prime Minister. Oh boy, this is gonna get interesting. And Mr. Net Zero believes giving a discount on a bridge that 99.9% of Canadians do not use is how you're going to win and make this country affordable again, saving you money, building our economy, and connecting our country. This is his big announcement that he made just 18 hours ago. The Confederation Bridge is his massive announcement to make us so rich. I can't wait to be rich from this bridge. And as some of the comments are, anti-taxer, oh wow, he did it. He saved Canada. Or Jeffy, all of these deals were made with Trump. Oh yeah, Mark Carney has nothing. On that front, we just got some breaking news. Mark Carney is going to be heading down to Washington, D.C. next week. What do you think? Is he going to get a deal with Donald Trump, or is it just going to be another photo op and more tariffs? This just in, we got another gut punch for Canadians. Meat is up, vegetables is up, dairy is up, grocery prices are up 3.5% in the month of August. Liberals tomorrow are going to tell us that GDP is booming and wages are up huge. Just as Melanie Joly mentioned in the House of Commons yesterday that our economy is on fire right now. Wages are way up. Oh yeah.
Mr. Speaker, this government has a true plan to build one Canadian economy. And when it comes to building one economy, we've made sure that we would have important national major projects. And we've announced them in the energy sector including in LNG. And of course, he should ask the Premier of Alberta what she thinks about that.
Right.
The other thing also I would like to say is that the GDP is actually growing. And look at the last numbers in July. And when you look at also what is happening in the country, wages are increasing. And indeed, when you saw 3.3% of growing wages across the country,
A 3.3% wage increase, and only in 1 month, the grocery prices went up 3.5%. Oh boy, Melanie Jolie, you gotta go back and read your notes. Since Mark Carney came into our lives, can you name one win for Canada? Just one. And if it's this middle class tax cut of 76 cents per day if you make over $150,000, and if you're in the lower income bracket, you get like 10 cents per day, I wouldn't consider that a win. But here's Pierre Poilievre on all of these wonderful victories we've had.
You know, it's incredible. Everywhere Mark Carney goes, we get hit with higher tariffs. You know, some people think I've criticized him for traveling. It's not his traveling, it's his results. He goes to Washington, gets wonderful, gushing media coverage. What's the result? The Americans double tariffs on Canada. He goes to Europe, twice to UK. And what do? Lock in the blockade against Canadian beef production. He meets with the Chinese premier. And what do the Chinese do? They double tariffs on our farmers and fish harvesters. We would be better off if Mark Carney would hide under a rock than we are with him traveling around the world. Everywhere he goes, we end up with higher tariffs. It has been a gigantic bait and switch. We were sold about this brilliant negotiator. Where is it? Point me to a single win anywhere in the world. These agreements he gets, they're not agreements. They're declarations that can contain the very first page that they have no legal binding and that they have no finances involved. All he has brought home is heavier tariffs on Canadians and a weaker Canadian economy. We need a new direction for our country. One that puts Canada first, one that will unlock our industry, make us a nation that is strong, self-reliant, and stands on its own 2 feet, that produces its own resources, that rewards hard work with low taxes, fast permits, and the best business environment in the world. That's the vision we have for Canada. Let's put our country first.
That's it for today's report. We have the most conflicted prime minister in Canadian history, and I'm going to show you a report on how conflicted, and he has to follow zero, and I mean absolutely no conflict of interest rules based on what's in place right now. No wonder he wanted to become the prime minister of Canada. He knew he would be able to position himself ahead of time and then make billions on the back of Canadian taxpayers. I can't wait to show you what I got on that information. It is an eye-opener. If he does not move out of the way and allow Canadians to build pipelines across this country, he's finished. I guarantee it. What's your thought, Canada? I will see you on the next report.